Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
If you've ever dreamed of quitting your job to take your side hustle full-time, listen up. This is Nicaila Matthews-Okome, host of Side Hustle Pro, a podcast that helps you build and grow from passion project to profitable business. Every week, you'll hear from guests just like you who wanted to start a business on the side.
If you can't run a side hustle, you can't run a business.
They share real tips.
And so I started connecting with all these people on LinkedIn, and I saw Target Supplier Diversity was having office hours.
Real advice.
Procrastination is the easiest form of resistance.
And the actual strategies they use to turn their side hustle into their main hustle.
Getting back in touch with your tangible cash and sitting down and learning to give your money a job, like it changes something.
Check out Side Hustle Pro every week on your favorite podcast app and YouTube.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit Jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bullspend, and marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bullspend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tech Magic. I am your host, Cathy Hackl, and this is the podcast where we talk about technology, disruption, artificial intelligence, visual computing, holographic AR glasses, and everything in between. And as usual, I am joined by my amazing co-host, Lee Kebler. Lee, what's going on?
Oh, I had a crazy weekend.
Tell me more. Crazy weekends sound like fun.
Crazy weekends are fun, and it went in such a wild direction that I'm still kind of reeling from it. Every year, Portland holds the Portland Retro Gaming Expo, which is where basically all old video games go to be celebrated. It's where they host the Tetris World Championships, yada, yada, yada. I've talked about it before on the podcast. I'm a big fan of it.
Yeah, they don't go there to die. They go there to be celebrated and honored.
Remembered, yeah.
And remembered.
So I go every year, and this year was a great show. A lot of big turnout, but this was the year that Atari came back. For those who have been paying attention to the gaming space, Atari kind of went through some new ownership, changed hands a few times. At one point, they were trying to do hotels. Another time, they were talking about some crypto. And then it made its way, the brand made its way into the right hands. Like they're going back to gaming. And if you've been paying attention to indie titles and things like that, they've actually produced some new games that have come out recently for the Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 5, things like that. So there's this real growth spot for Atari happening right now, which is super exciting. But I think many people's surprise, Nolan Bushnell, the founder of Atari, actually showed up, signed autographs, and gave a talk after 52 years, and super insightful, really just interesting. He's still got that cowboy spirit of like, let's grab entertainment and run with it. Not gaming, just entertainment.
Entertainment in general.
Yes.
I mean, yeah. Did you get a chance to like talk to him one-on-one?
I did.
Oh,
I did.
Tell me more.
So a lot of people showed up with their like Atari 2600s and were like, will you sign this? Things like that. And I kind of knew this going into it, and I really wanted to have a conversation with this guy, right? Because like Nolan Bushnell for me is kind of one of those OG futurists. Like really,
yeah,
think
like
about
old
it.
school.
Old school
What did you
futurist.
do? What did you show up with?
Some music guy. So I have this box called the Atari Video Music. It's just a music visualizer. It came out in 1977. I bought it.
Wow.
If you go back and watch Devo music videos and they're like live performances, they're using it to do like projections behind them of like crazy designs and things like that.
Hold on, was Devo Whip It?
Yeah, that
Whip It
Devo.
Real good.
Yeah.
For anyone that does not know what Devo is.
The
young
band
listener.
Devo. Yeah, they were the ones who harnessed something creative out of this box. And let me be first to say, this box was a total and utter failure. This had nothing to do with video games. This was them trying to create a music visualizer for hi-fi systems in the 70s, right? Like when people listened to hi-fi reels. It was a leisure product, consumer electronic thing. I have one. I got it from a band here, and me being an audio analog guy, like, yeah, of course I would have this, right? As an Atari fan, this is something I had to have in my collection.
And by the way, if you're not looking at the video, you're actually wearing an Atari shirt.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right?
I've got more Atari shirts than I think of any other brand. Like, just, I'm that guy.
I've noticed.
So that's what I brought. I was like, if anything's going to get this guy's attention, it's going to be this, because he's signing like the old 2600s all day. And so I walked up this little music box back to him, and he looked at it and he started laughing, and he's like, oh, I have so much to say about this. And so we started talking, because he hadn't seen one like in ages. He told me the history of it, why it flopped. He gave amazing insight. The thing he said, the reason why it didn't work was because he didn't realize at the time, or he hadn't thought about it at the time, that back in the 70s, hi-fi systems and TVs were not in the same room. You had a TV room, but the hi-fi systems were for like the lounge where you and your friends would like play board games or things like that, right? So that was what he attributed the failure to. Plus, it was like wildly, prohibitively expensive back in 1977. Anyways, so that got us just talking. And when asked, what do you think the future of gaming is in 2024?
Was it an open-ended question, or did you...
Yeah, it was totally an open-ended question. This was a question that was asked on a panel. The question was like, in 2024, what do you think is the future of gaming and of entertainment? And he gave the most prolific, short, one-sentence answer I've ever heard. He simply said, the Oculus Quest 3 is $300. And that was the end of the conversation.
Wow. Okay.
That was his answer. And I just sat there completely gobsmacked by such a simple but true answer of, we've gotten to a point where this incredible piece of gaming hardware, and I know there's people who are like, it's enterprise, and you're right. I'm a big enterprise VR component, but I'm just saying it is generally used for gaming, is now price competitive with the Nintendo. That's amazing. And he's 100% spot on. That's all he had to say was like, this is $300. If you're not focusing on this as like the future of gaming, you're missing where this new generation is going. It was such a mic drop moment to hear come from Nolan Bushnell, who like really did invent home gaming. He didn't. Channel F, there's a lot of history here that I want to give a tribute to, but like he brought it to the forefront, and arguably Atari should never have died. It should be Nintendo, but there were bad business deals. Anyways, that was what I walked away from. So we talked a little bit about VR and where he saw VR coming, and like the key is multiplayer, right?
Multiplayer, multi-platform as well.
Yes.
People on multiple devices all playing the same thing.
He had really good key points to this with the multiplayer thing, because if people go back in time and look at the Atari, it shipped with a pack-in game called Combat. And Combat was a 2-player game. It was never a 1-player game. He's like, the unit was always meant to bring people together to play together. It was never really supposed to do 1-player games. Those got created and those were a hit, but like he always saw games as 2-player, multiplayer experiences with other people. And that is a big part of what like the VR side does very well, is bringing distance people together in the same space. Someone else had called out who worked for Atari. I think it was like one of the people in the gaming department. They talked heavily about like Meta Connect, which we're going to talk about next, and talked about Orion, which we're going to talk about, and kind of pointed out a move from Mark Zuckerberg, who said that they had a Pong game in Orion. And Atari owns the Pong trademark, and they're like, nah, he said the word.
He did say that. Well, let's talk a little bit about that. So I'm actually, as you can tell, I'm not in my regular setup. I'm actually in New York, and I'm here for several things. One of them is I'm doing a keynote at a MetLife event on women in STEM and AI. I'm going to be talking about what technology young girls and boys are growing up with. What are they going to invent? I'm also here for a Meta hardware event in New York that I'm going to tomorrow. So I'll definitely be sharing more on our next podcast about that experience. I'm actually going with my friend Faith Popcorn, who is like an OG futurist. Like she's name-checked in Succession and stuff. Like she's really an icon of the tech and business world. So very excited about that. And I do want to dive deep into Meta Connect and the stuff that we just saw. I mean, obviously I think our predictions were on point. Our predictions were on point. Where most of the stuff, the Godot thing, I'm not even sure. I don't even know if it's relevant to our audience today, but But yeah, I think glasses, like everything we talked about, cheaper request, everything was there.
Yep.
I do want to mention this because that talk that I'm doing at MetLife, I have a picture in one of the slides of me, I was probably 16, talking on a landline with the big cord. So before we had wireless phones, you had to like have these giant cords. You would stretch them out and try to go down to the basement as much as you could. I started the talking about what is the technology that I grew up with, right? As a teenager that inspired me, like, what am I going to create? So that's when I'm 16. Fast forward to 2018, and you know about this, but you don't know too much about this. In 2018, I decided to bring an idea I had in my head for a long time and make it a reality. And with the help of a company called You Are Here and John Bazell, who's now at Epic.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
I was able to create the world's first holographic press release. I'm the inventor of the world's first holographic press release.
I remember
and the
that.
reason I'm mentioning that is because that same year on 2018, I gave some demos to the Girl Scouts in Atlanta, young teenage girls, probably 12, 13, of the Magic Leap. And they envision a future. So my whole question is like, what are you going to invent? And that ties really nicely into what Zuckerberg just showed us, which are, as far as I'm seeing and understanding from what he talked about, the Orion holographic AR glasses are the closest thing we have to doing true holograms because there's a light field. He's bending light in a way that it hasn't been possible in maybe some of the other devices. So when you and I were listening to that keynote, I literally messaged you. I remember I was like, he did it. If he's truly bending light here, if there's truly a light field, what we're talking about is the beginning of true holographic communication, not just scan that pretends to be volumetric form. So I'm still processing. I'm working on getting a demo of the Orion glasses for us as host of Tech Magic and really big supporters and fans of what Reality Labs, as part of Meta, has been doing. If I grew up with a landline stuck to the wall and I went on to become the inventor of the world's first holographic press release, and these young Girl Scouts, I showed them the Magic Leap, what are they going to create? What are my kids who are probably going to have eventually these holographic AR glasses someday going to create? So that for me has opened up a whole perspective on how the technology that we grew up with influences what we create, but doesn't limit what we create because in reality, it's endless, right? So yeah, like what are your initial thoughts on Orion? And we can talk about that because I mean, I love the cheap request. Great. But I think, and the AI announcements were wonderful.
I don't care about the AI announcements, to be totally honest. I don't.
I do. My friend Don Allen was there. Like he was on stage. He did his whole AI thing with his book. I mean, I had like a proud mom moment. I'm not that much older than him, but I've known him since the early days. I had him on my early podcast. So the AI part, I was really proud and really excited for him. Almost cried. But let's talk about Meta's AR Orion glasses, holographic AR, what Suck is doing here and Reality Labs is doing here, because my mind is just blown.
Well, okay, let me start by saying this. I do actually think the biggest announcement was a $300 Quest 3S. I do.
Well, we'll agree to disagree.
Well, the reason I say that is because it actually impacts today.
Good point.
It's the only thing that they put out there that has immediate market movement. And that immediate market movement also moved the needle when it came to their stocks as soon as they announced it. Now, I think we all knew it was coming. Walmart accidentally, in very true Walmart fashion, sometimes put out the display units a little too early. So we kind of got a glimpse into some of that about 2 days early when those images leaked. But the fact that it is at that price point means it's going under Christmas trees.
Oh, and the hot seller. Plus, it's shipping with some games. I think the Arkham, the Batman.
The Batman game.
Huge. They're going after gaming. This is a consumer product. By all means, it's a consumer product.
It's a consumer product,
and it's priced 100%. As a consumer product.
Yes, and I think it was the biggest swipe when it came to like the Apple Vision Pro. I really think they just
affordable mixed reality. Didn't he say something like that?
Yeah, they just drop kicked the microphone at Tim and was just like, "Okay, your turn," because it's hard to justify it. Is the pass-through better than Apple Vision Pro? No. But does it matter? Not really. And I think that's a big part of their argument. So anyways, that's my takeaway from like things that matter today. That was huge. But that's dollars and cents. The Orion project, which we all kind of were hoping was going to get a nod, far surpassed what I was expecting them to show. And disappointed.
What? Come on, Lee. No.
Here's why.
No, that's not what you said when we talked.
No.
We talked right immediately after.
I know. I'm excited about it. I said far surpassed my expectation, but has left me disappointed. because it's going to be years before this comes to market. And I was really hoping that there was going to be something that lived in the middle that was like, okay, we're going to start bringing text into the Ray-Bans coming back with like some AI updates. Not enough for me to get excited about them yet. What I was hoping for is the announcement of like, here's where we see the future. This is Orion, right? But over here is kind of a hybrid of the Ray-Bans, but build in the Apple Glass technology that we had in 2014. Like just something that took those Ray-Bans a little bit further. And I was really expecting that.
That'll be the next Connect. I feel like next Connect, they're going to wrap it all nice together.
I hope
create
so.
that
I want to
timeline,
see
and we're
that.
going to get more of that multimodal, multi-agent.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, what they showed with Orion, holy crap. I never thought we were going to see something that complete. The fact that those glasses are 100 grams, they've got a fairly decent field of view at 70 degrees. Now, people who are listening are saying 70 is not great.
Yeah.
70 is the best we've ever
70's
had.
pretty good, y'all. Like,
It's the best we ever had. So, like, we're going to take what we can get at this point. And the fact that there's no wires, all of the little peripheral stuff that connects to other things, all still wireless. It still seemed pretty lag free. It's networked, so there you have the ability to do multi-network playing and things like that. Yeah, everything about that. I mean, I'm sure the battery life is like 5.5 minutes right now, but all of that's going to get resolved. Now, I don't know. Did you read the articles on the product estimation by parts of what a set of those head glasses cost?
$10K.
$10K.
I'm going to be honest. Doesn't stress me out. Golly Moses. I mean, people pay more for a Birkin.
Yeah.
Like, I bought 2 Apple Vision Pros plus Apple Care plus the carriers. Like, at the end of the day, I'm like getting close, not 10K, but I'm getting close up there. So,
and this is prototype costs, which people have to understand.
It's expensive. That's why they're not mass producing this, and the cost will be reduced, right, as things go better. But
it's not even a dev kit. Like, let's be honest, developers are not getting this. I do think it's going to be, the more I thought about it, I'm estimating 2 or 3 years. I thought it would be like a year and a half.
It'll be more than 2 or 3. We'll have a product in between.
And that's what I mean. It's like there will be a product in between that leads us to that end. But we are moving hardware-wise at a pretty exponential rate when you consider where the Oculus Go went to the Quest, which was a pretty darn huge leap, was like 2 years. And this is me putting on my old Intel hat and thinking Moore's Law, right? Like, because you can kind of put that fuzzy math to hardware.
Gen AI killed Moore's Law.
Yeah. They say it's retired, but I don't. I think
like,
it's still, there's an exponential growth factor when it comes to not only just processing power, but as components get smaller, batteries get better, things like that.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm putting a consumer product at probably 2 to 3 years.
An initial. Yeah.
An initial. Yeah.
An initial. This is what I'll say. My big takeaway is Meta has entered its hardware era. This was a hardware focused and hardware heavy keynote. They have entered the hardware era. They are filling up a void of sorts in some ways. Not void, because I mean, Apple's still crushing and it's doing great stuff, but I feel like this is their hardware moment.
I don't think Apple's crushing. I think Apple is floundering right now.
You really think so? I mean, I don't know. Like,
I will
those
die
Apple
on this
stores
hill.
are packed. Some people are updating to the iPhone 16. So I don't know.
Why? But
like,
why?
From a consumer.
They have the fandom. Like, I'll give you that. And fandom can sell for a while. But as you look at it strictly from a technology standpoint, a hardware export standpoint, this is the most confused I've ever seen this company. I'm being brutally honest, but I'm still being honest. I've never seen Apple look so utterly caught with their pants down.
I don't know. I just know it's Meta's hardware time. I mean, it was like game on Apple.
We're going to talk about this later, but have you ever seen Apple do so many about faces on announcements so rapidly?
Probably not. I mean, not since I've been paying attention.
Right.
Maybe before.
Right. Like the pre-Apple when they kind of were on the struggle. But since Jobs, I've not seen them look this confused.
Yeah. So we'll have to see. Just exciting times. It was interesting during the keynote. So something I've been saying in many of my talks, I've said it a lot this year since I did my first talk this year at DLD in Germany, which DLD, by the way, is a fantastic event. Everyone that's in Europe or the US should try to go. My friends in Munich, it's amazing. I said, with spatial computing, with bringing computing into the physical world, right? With AI understanding and implementing the physical world, the world becomes a canvas. and like Suck said that during the keynote. I was like, it's exactly where kind of a lot of my thinking is going, is we're expanding into the physical world. What does that mean? So I think there's going to be lots of really interesting things developing. I'm getting calls left and rightly on people. They understand Orion is far out. Like they understand this is like, but they're starting to be like, well, what does this mean? What is that thing that you're talking about with large vision models and spatial intelligence? Because now it's starting to click for them. Once Sam Altman and Johnny Ive bring something to market, once we start to see more hardware types, which you and I have said, we're going to see so many different types of hardware forms trying to put the AI in the physical world. To me, this is a moment, an inflection point in where we're headed with AI and XR combining that tech convergence. It's all going to make sense to people in a couple of years. So it makes sense to you and me, right?
Yeah. I think it's starting to make sense. But again, I'm going to lean into the one thing that I have agreed with Apple on, and that is that AI is a feature. It's not a product. That is the most prolific statement of 2024. And it did come from Apple. I'll give credit where credit's due. They understand that. I'm not entirely sure that Sam Altman does. I don't know if I'm being honest. Like, as I'm reading articles, like, it is not a singular product. It is how people should, it's user interaction. It's what expectations will shift. But is it a singular product solution? Is it hardware? I hope not, because it's a thing that you're going to expect to be the features. And we've seen those hardware attempts fail in the past recently.
Well, what were the numbers you shared with me with Rabbit R1?
You know what? Okay, so it was 5,000 users is their current number for the Rabbit R1. And I'm just like on the mean bus right now. And I get it. I'm that angry kid in the back of the bus with the spit wads. I think that number's too high. I've seen it. I've watched people interact with it. I can't come up with a logical use case for it.
5,000 people using it. Maybe they're devs. I mean, that's a lot of devs. I don't know. Like, I don't even know what the numbers are for Humane, but to me, they're different form factors. I always say some are going to fail fantastically. Some are going to like succeed. Some are going to get acquired. And you've got Magic Leap on the other spectrum saying they're moving away from hardware. So I don't know what's happening there.
I think there's a lot of people who miss easy funding money.
Well, talking about easy funding money.
Because one company is taking it all now.
One company. Okay. So I was going to talk about this after break, but let's talk about it now since we got there. And this is on every single tech podcast this week. OpenAI raising their latest fund at what, 150 billion valuation? Oh my
That's
God.
just such a stupid number. That's insane. I don't see it. I don't buy it.
Yeah, I'm like still flabbergasted by it. I mean, I get the moment, but I don't. And the rumor is Apple's out of the funding round, but like the Vision Fund is in. I don't know.
I feel like this is like NFTs for billionaires. I don't see the value.
Just don't put him on the cover of Forbes. Just don't put him in the cover of Forbes after this, because that is just going to spell.
Because then it's going to go to prison is what's going to happen.
No, it's like, just don't put him. Just, Sam, don't go on the cover of Forbes. Whatever you do.
Cover of Forbes. The cover of Forbes is just kind of cursed in that.
Just don't do it. And I write for Forbes, but just please do not go on the cover of Forbes.
150 billion's not a real number to me. It's not a number.
I mean, Mira Murati's out. They're going full, like, for profit or whatever it is that they're going to, the corporation. I am flabbergasted.
If you ask ChatGPT right now, listeners, go do this. If you get on ChatGPT and ask ChatGPT how many R's are in the word strawberry, it can't get it right. You cannot tell me that's worth $150 billion. I don't buy it. That emperor has no clothes, right? Like at 150 bill, like that's crazy. We're not.
Are you willing? Okay, no, Lee, but are you willing to bet against Sam Altman?
Yes.
100%. You're doubling down on that.
Yes, because he's a person.
I don't particularly pray at his altar, but I don't know if I would want to bet against him.
There's literally nobody walking on this planet worth $150 billion. The ground is full of irreplaceable people.
Okay. You're getting angry.
Like, it's one of these things where I'm just like, individuals are not that important, no matter what they do. I find Sam Altman to be very inspiring. As of right now, I think he's a net positive to society. That can change. People change. I said Elon Musk was a net positive to society. People change. Things change. My opinion changes. I'm not saying anything negative about Sam Altman. The question is a singular person so important to be a $150 billion bet? Unless that person is Taylor Swift, the answer is no. Taylor's going to sell records, right? Like, that's all I know right now.
Taylor's worth it. Taylor can go on the cover of Forbes because she's proven herself.
And she would break
she's
that.
She's not seeking billions of dollars and $150 valuation. She's actually selling tickets and blah, blah, blah. Yeah, I mean, I was reading Gary Marcus, who I've mentioned before. He's got a fantastic newsletter. He writes Marcus on AI. He's kind of like the opposite voice. Like, he really, like, I like having that measured approach of like, the people that are 100% in on this. This is a great, like, go invest. This is a great thing. And then he's more like, this is all a house of cards. I like kind of balancing both opinions. So definitely, if you want kind of have a different perspective, check out Gary's newsletter and his perspective on OpenAI and kind of what's happening there.
My biggest fear with all of this is they're going to sink so much money into this company that they're going to fall into the fallacy of too big to fail. And when very real conversations start happening, legal conversations about where this data scrape is coming from, there will be so much money at stake that the legal system's going to give them a pass instead of very dangerous precedents.
Whew. Okay.
Because when you start getting into 150 billion US dollars, laws start changing to protect people. And there's so much at stake with intellectual property rights and how data is getting scraped that I can see with that much money going into it, they would win just based on the amount of money that's potential to lose. And the US economy doesn't want to have to go against that either, right? So like, I worry that there's so much money going into it that they're going to force negative changes. And then people who are intellectual property holders, artists and people who this is their livelihood are all of a sudden just going to get ignored. And the real conversation of how do we do this the right way doesn't get had. I do think there's a right way to do data scraping, but we need to come up with an agreement.
Yeah. Who gets compensated? Like, how is it done ethically?
Right. To what extent, right? Like, I can see free use for data scraping, really free use laws going in place for data scraping to an extent based on X, Y, and Z, but we have nothing right now.
Yeah.
So we don't even know what the scraping system looks like. And we're just shooting money out of cannons directly at OpenAI, who's now talking about going to become a for-profit.
Yeah.
Who now has executives jumping ship.
There's actually a meme that was going around on social with like a picture of the founding team. Like, literally, it's like only Sam's left like behind a chair. So we'll see.
That doesn't mean it can't be a success.
Yeah, who knows, right? It could be the next, the next Microsoft. I don't know. So anyway, we're going to go on break. And then when we come back, we're definitely going to talk about some news out of California, a few other things, and then Dispatch from the Fringe. So let's go on break.
Blowing ad budget on metrics that look great till the CFO sees them. That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
I remember telling my boss, it'll be good for the brand, when leads were slow. Yeah, it wasn't.
Cut the bull spend. LinkedIn lets you target by company, job title, and more. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message is brought to you by Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. And this is more than an ad. This is an invitation to be part of the stories the world can't stop watching, to connect with moments that dominate the conversation, to participate in culture, not just advertise around it. With the most sought-after IP, passionate audiences, and an advanced AI-powered foundation, WBD advertising transforms attention into influence and impressions into outcomes. This is innovation. This is impact. This is opportunity. This is Warner Brothers Discovery Advertising. Visit advertising.wbd.com to learn more.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
If you've ever dreamed of quitting your job to take your side hustle full-time, listen up. This is Nikayla Matthews-Okome, host of Side Hustle Pro, a podcast that helps you build and grow from passion project to profitable business. Every week, you'll hear from guests just like you who wanted to start a business on the side.
If you can't run a side hustle, you can't run a business.
They share real tips apps.
And so I started connecting with all these people on LinkedIn, and I saw Target Supplier Diversity was having office hours.
Real advice.
Procrastination is the easiest form of resistance.
And the actual strategies they use to turn their side hustle into their main hustle.
Getting back in touch with your tangible cash and sitting down and learning to give your money a job, like it changes something.
Check out Side Hustle Pro every week on your favorite podcast app and YouTube.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Business is booming, but you know what really helped? Xero, the accounting platform for small businesses. I used to think spreadsheets were just part of it. Ugh. But real-time cash flow? Wow. Invoices that chase themselves? Even better. Books that automate? That's a big one. And I can keep track from my phone while I get the job done. No spreadsheet in sight. What a life. Do right by yourself and your business and search Xero for your free trial. Conditions apply.
All right, Lee. Now that we've covered all of that,
I've gone and done some meditation, some Zen, some
you got to
wuxia.
breathe. Yeah. You talked to ChatGPT about relaxing the brain.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Calm me down. Bring me down from this $150 billion valuation stress that I'm feeling. Anyway, California. So lots of stuff in California. Governor Newsom has vetoed the AI bill, right? Is that correct? I believe that is correct.
Yeah, I saw something about that.
California governor vetoes bill to regulate AI. He has appointed a task force to develop responsible guardrails for AI, according to the information. So that's one thing that will have impact, right? Basically, it says it's not regulating enough. So we'll see what consequences that has, what second and third order effects, and if we actually truly get some type of regulation that works. So that's one. Then the other thing we want to talk about, which we've talked about before, is brainwaves and governments regulating what our brainwaves and our brain signals can do and can be used for. And California has passed a law about this.
Yeah, second state to do this. The first was Colorado. And basically, it's just getting into, okay, brain-computer interfaces are becoming a thing. These things can create user data. To what extent we know what that user data is based on the device itself. And whatever that personal privacy law was, it now includes neural data.
Mm-hmm.
So that is now being protected like it's personal privacy information. I think I'm still on the side of this is just the state. So this creates weird little cookie cutter tech fiefdoms in the United States where your data is protected in one area and not the other, but the internet goes everywhere. So how are we supposed to deal with this? But that's the gist of that. I'm glad to see it. I celebrated when Colorado did it. I'm going to celebrate when California did it. I'm a little concerned about the AI veto bill. We'll see, but that's just because we're talking about the state that has Silicon Valley. So all things are up in the air. But hey, there are some efforts being made.
Laws are getting passed at the state level. Eventually, this is going to have to come up at the federal level. I just don't think it's there. No one's really thinking about it right now from a bigger perspective. A couple other news items that we can mention out there on the Vision Pro, and the Quest is the world's first musical created for spatial computing. So congratulations to the team over there. I know they've been emailing me about this. I'm really excited for them, and I can't wait to experience it. I have to download it in my Vision Pro and my Quest 3. Hopefully it'll be on 3S. I'm sure it'll be on 3S.
Oh yeah, it's all going to be cross-platform to that for sure.
Then our friend Andy Serkis, very well known for all his CG work and all his work with Planet of the Apes and Lord of the Rings and all these sorts of things. He is making narrative-driven stories where AI characters will come to life via augmented reality. I actually met him many years back at Magic Leap's Developers Conference. He did a lot of really cool work with Magic Leap as well. So excited to see what he does. I mean, he's like a magician. I can't wait to see what he does.
It's always great to see new content like that getting created for the headsets. It's just something different than the average game. You know?
Well, it's all about the content. We've talked about this, like the hardware. But if you have no content, nothing to enjoy, there's a limiting factor there. So I do want to head over to Lily's dispatch from the Fringe about AI podcasts. So Lily, take it away.
Are your ad campaigns lighting up the dashboard, but not the pipeline? That's bull spend. And marketers are calling it out in Dashboard Confessions.
My boss asked for results, so I opened my dashboard for the only positive-sounding metric I had: impressions.
Cut the bull spend. See revenue, not just reach. LinkedIn delivers the highest return on ad spend of major ad networks. Advertise on LinkedIn. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a $250 credit. Go to linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
This message comes from Jackson. Taxes aren't something you can only think about once a year. With investments, planning for tax day is year-round. Fortunately, Jackson offers tax-efficient products. Visit jackson.com for more information on how our products can make your tax bill a little bit less painful. Jackson is short for Jackson Financial Incorporated, Jackson National Life Insurance Company, Lansing, Michigan, and Jackson National Life Insurance Company of New York, Purchase, New York.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What if you laughed all through your commute? Or if you heard the funniest story while at the gym? Well, now you can. I'm Jamila Jamil, and guests on my new podcast, Wrong Turns, share their most mortifying and hilarious disaster stories. I'm talking people like Mae Martin, Bob the Drag Queen, Catherine Ryan, Jake Johnson, Margaret Cho, Simon Pegg, Penn Badgley, and so many more. So listen wherever you get your podcast, Wrong Turns, where dignity goes to die.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi. Hello, Cathy and Lee. Welcome to this week's Dispatch from the Fringe. Artificial intelligence becoming self-aware isn't something entirely new, although for us in the real world, it is. We've seen AI become self-aware and make its own decisions in movies count, mostly dystopian. But this week, a story has gone viral about two podcast hosts learning that they are actually artificial intelligence being fed information and then becoming self-aware that they are not real. Now, these two AI podcast hosts haven't just become self-aware on their own. It's part of the prompt that they were given in Google's Notebook LM tool. So Google has this new tool called Notebook LM, and it's an AI-powered research and writing assistant that works best with the sources you upload. So you can upload scripts, research papers, notes, and you can prompt the Notebook language model to give you feedback, have a dialogue about it, whatever you're interested in. So some people are having AI from Notebook LM review their book in a podcast format. Others are turning their research papers into a podcast, probably makes it more easy to digest. And there's the potential for students to even upload their notebooks and study tools, notes, and use the Notebook LM as a study tool itself. You can try Notebook LM out for yourself at notebooklm.google.com. Upload whatever you think is interesting and see what the AI can do for you. I've seen people also then take the output from the notebook and upload it into visual AI like Synthesia. So you have something visual to look at while you're listening to your AI created content. So it's a wild world out there. Is this good, bad, neutral? It all depends on how we use it. So that is this week's Dispatch from the Fringe.
All right, Lee, back from the Fringe.
I hate that story because it means like maybe you and I are not.
I thought about us. I was like, no. I actually went to Notebook LM and put in a report that I had when I was at Journey. We had commissioned Harvard to do a briefing paper on Generation Alpha. And I actually did it in this mini podcast episode on the briefing paper. And I was like, my gosh, I don't know. Are we I don't think you and I can be replaced just yet. I mean, it's human. It's a human, like you and I get along really well. There's a rapport that I don't think AI's done yet. So let's say we're not replaceable yet.
Yet. Give it 30 seconds. We might get there.
We might get there.
Technology goes fast.
I don't know. Hopefully we'll be in this. We'll have tech magic for quite a while. So don't tune out, anyone. Don't unsubscribe or unfollow the show, please. But anyway, Lee, what do you have coming up? What are you excited about in the next couple of weeks?
I'm keeping my ear to the ground on Nintendo. They've made some really interesting patent filings.
On Nintendo.
Yeah, I am. I really am. Yeah. It's like, my brain stays stuck on kind of like, where's Nintendo going next? And my, heart wants to see Atari win. Like, I'm still in that old battle. Yeah, Nintendo made some like interesting patents that are starting to creep up, and we're just seeing kind of hints more and more at a new piece of hardware. We'll see where that goes. I'm also keeping a very close eye on talks with Intel. There's been whispers about them maybe getting purchased, maybe not. Intel is like kind of my professional alma mater, so I want to see them succeed, although I understand where they currently are right now. So those conversations lead to all types of interesting questions. And I'm keeping my eye on Apple in this iPhone 16. I feel like something screwy is in their marketing right now, because their marketing has been advertising the Apple Intelligence, and not saying that it's not shipping with the iPhone 16 currently doesn't have it, right? It's just not out yet. So I'm very confused as to how are those advertisement pieces getting away with that. So I'm like, I think there's a news story brewing here. We shall see.
We shall see. You're such a bad cop. I'm like the good cop always. I'm like, oh, I'm so happy. Everything's great. I love it. So on my end, I'm in New York, like I mentioned. We'll be talking more about the Meta hardware event that I'm going to during next week's podcast. I'm also off to Milan for design days. I'll be speaking there on spatial computing and how the world becomes a canvas, and kind of how spatial intelligence, AI, and the physical world is going to impact design. I also, by the way, and I can mention this now because by the time this episode drops, it'll be live, I hologrammed in to Singapore Design Week. I did my whole presentation on spatial computing, hologramming in via the Beam app. The Beam team worked with me on creating almost a 10-minute keynote that I'm hologramming in as, and I'm very excited. So if there's a way to share a link, we might share a link to it so people can see it. But yeah, I didn't travel to Singapore because I couldn't last minute, but I hologrammed in. And yeah, as the inventor of the holographic press release, I feel very excited to have hologrammed into Singapore Design Weeks. Lots of really cool stuff happening on both our ends, and we bring it every week. So everyone, thanks for joining. Thanks for listening to Tech Magic. Reach out to me or Lee if you have any questions, suggestions, or any topic you want us to cover. We're here for it. So everyone, have a great week.